the inability of Nnpc to offtake? Or are you saying that that's the challenge, if there's a supply gap?
It's a fact that Nnpc owes international traders $6.8 billion. It's a fact that 2 months ago, Nnpc was at a standstill and they were unable to bring in PMS into Nigeria because the international traders who usually supply the markets in Nigeria kept some cargoes offshore financial hold and refused.
This channel not only feed your eyes with good movies, we also bring you the hottest and the newest trend around the globe. My darlings, sit tight and enjoy this one.
Dangote Refinery has dismissed claims. It filed fresh charges against the Nigeria National Petroleum Corporation Limited and 5 other companies. In a statement, Dangote Refinery said the case is an old issue that started in June and culminated in a matter being filed on September 6. Currently, the parties are in discussion since President Bola Tinubu's directive on crude oil and refined product sales in Naira initiative, which was approved by the Federal Executive Council. The group's chief brand and communications officer said no party has been served with court processes and that there is no intention of doing so. He said no orders have been made and there are no diverse or adverse effects on any party. The group said once the matter comes up in January 2025, it would be in a position to formally withdraw the matter in court. Joining us now on the show to further explain the veracity of this new development is Kelvin Emmanuel, an economist. Good morning, Kelvin. Good to see you again.
Good morning, Ayo. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, good morning, Kelvin. Ordinarily, I would think that this matter speaks for itself. Tony Chejina has already issued a statement saying no costs were awarded, nobody solved or had any adversity, and that in any case, due to President Tinubu's intervention about crude oil, for Naira for crude oil, that the matter had been overtaken by developments, and that in January 2025, the matter will be withdrawn. In other words, the parties involved have resolved their differences. But, okay. Do you think that there are other dimensions to it beyond the clarifications that have been offered by Tony Chejina? Is there something else we need to know?
Dr. Abati, good morning. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you so much for having me. Before I talk about the issue, I need us to have a little bit of context. Sections 317, subsections 8 to 11. Of the Petroleum Industry Act of 2021 is very specific on backward integration policy for midstream in Nigeria, on quotas for companies that have crude oil refining license and are active refiners of crude oil into derivatives, especially PMS. And it talked about the fact that you can't have a regulator grant license or approve for people to import products into Nigeria when the local refiner is meeting up with a certain quota. Today, as we speak, Dr. Abati, the Dangote Refinery in Lagos is processing between 350 and 425,000 barrels of crude oil. Today, as we speak, the refinery is able to do at least 30 million liters of PMS, and it currently has 245 million liters of PMS in storage, contrary to the false reports and speculations that you have out there from naysayers, and evil people who are alleging that the refinery is not able to do up to more than 10 million liters on a daily basis. Now, this case was filed in June, towards the end of the 2023-2024 legal year. And for people who are familiar with court processes, we know that when a case is filed, it takes a few months for the court to bring it to mention, okay? After June, the court went on recess. You had the vacation court, and the case was called for mention early September. When the case was called for mention, the counsel to the plaintiff mentioned to my lord that the case has been overtaken by events and both parties have resorted to settle out of court. And my lord scheduled for January 2025 for a report on settlement. That's how the judicial process works. So even if there is the fact that today there's been progress since June, and today as we speak, about 4 cargoes under the Naira-based crude oil sales has been delivered to the Dangote Refinery. They're still expecting more cargoes promised for October 2024. And under that Naira-based crude oil sales, you have the fact that there's been no fair conclusion exactly on some level of fiscal framework between both parties, because the formal agreements on that deal has actually not been signed by the Dangote Refinery, And today, as we speak, within the last 2 weeks, the Dangote Refinery has actually delivered more than 120 million liters of PMS to the Nigerian markets. The Dangote Refinery, based on one of the prayers it sought, that Jet A1, automotive turbine kerosene, should be backwardly integrated, to prevent losses to the refinery. The Minister of Aviation and Aerospace has actually directed marketers to offtake most of what it imports in Jet A1 from the Dangote Refinery. So the reality of the matter is that case has been overtaken by events, and there's been progress in the relationship between the refinery in Lagos and the federal government of Nigeria.
All right. Okay, let me go further. So I'm glad that you've explained this. But there's another report this morning saying that the Dangote Refinery has been unable to meet what we supply obligations to the Nnpcl. And just as you're talking about this case that you're withdrawing, they're saying it's been able to meet only 26% of the 1.065 billion liters between September 15 and October 20. I'd like you to, just speak to these claims. Is this accurate? And if that's the case, what's the way forward?
Ayo, this claim is false, and this claim is false because the government has its representatives at the refinery, NMDPR, Nnpc, and they can go and confirm that the refinery currently has 245 million liters of PMS in storage. The question is, does Nnpc have the money to offtake? In the last 2 months, Nnpc basically has had to raise LC from a Nigerian bank in order to finance the offtake of PMS from the refinery. So if one party is saying that the refinery is not able to do more than 10 million liters, and the refinery can verify that over 120 million liters of PMS has been supplied to the Nigerian markets within the last 2 weeks, right? And it's confirmed that it's accepted cargoes based on the Naira-based crude oil sales, then you know that there isn't a truth to that report. It's absolutely false.
So just to clarify, Kelvin,
about
is the issue then the inability of Nnpc to offtake, or are you saying that that's the challenge? If there's a supply gap,
it's a fact that Nnpc owes international traders $6.8 billion. It's a fact that 2 months ago Nnpc was at a standstill, and they were unable to bring in PMS into Nigeria because the international traders who usually supply the markets in Nigeria kept some cargoes offshore financial hold and refused to supply those cargoes unless they are paid in cash or they are paid through crude oil feedstock in the crude oil swap deals it has through modified carrier agreements, international trade. That's a fact. Nnpc does not have the financial capacity in cash to offtake products from the Dangote Refinery. And this is why I said a few months ago that considering the quality of PMS, which meets up with the AFRI 5 framework, as outlined in sections 317.11 of the PIA, of 50 ppm, where you have Dangote today at 10 parts per million for sulfur and over 93, 94 for octane in terms of percentage, right? Dangote Refinery is actually bending backwards to be able to meet up with the demands of Nigeria, considering the quality of PMS that is supplying to the Nigerian market. Nnpc does not have the financial capacity. In fact, the crude oil swap deal, the Naira-based crude oil sales of 400,000 barrels of crude oil that the Nigerian government is supposed to be supplying to the Dangote Refinery on a daily basis, but which it expects to get about 12 million barrels in October, only about 60% of that is fulfilled. So there isn't any truth to the rumor or allegation by one party that the refinery is not able to do or meet up its obligation. That is completely false, because I will say it again to you, Ayo, and this is something that the government can verify. There's 245 million liters of PMS at the storage tanks of the refinery in Lagos as we speak.
But today to further the point I was making, today in the Nation newspaper, I don't know if you've seen the front page of the Nation newspaper, it was exclusively stated there that between the time parameter they were supposed to meet about 1 billion liters, and Dangote Refinery has only met a little over 300 million liters. So are you saying that that reportage there does not reflect the truth? That's number one. Number two will be, what was the essence for this court case in the first place? Was it because there was a lack of faith in government when all of the debacle went back and forth? And now that marketers are still saying that they're going to go ahead and import because the requirements cannot be met, what's your take on that?
Rufai, you asked a very excellent question. First of all, the fact that you have to...
You're watching Nolly Magic TV. My joy is to keep you updated with the latest gist. And your joy should be subscribing to this channel and giving this video a thumbs up, please.
245 million liters of PMS in Lagos that is not being taken like by the government and independent marketers and major marketers association and the rest of them speaks volume about the allegation that Dangote Refinery cannot meet up with 1 billion liters of PMS, about over 800,000 metric tons of PMS for the period for which it was requested for. That is completely false. In fact, when FEC agreed and directed Nnpc to offtake products from Dangote Refinery, it is a fact that is verifiable that the government was not able to summon enough tankers to take off product from the gantries in Lagos. It is a fact. Okay, so there is no truth to the allegation or the rumor that the refinery is not able to meet up, because as we speak, the refinery is able to do at least 30 million liters of PMS on a daily basis. And if you see also the report that has come out in the last couple of days, over the last 1 week, that the consumption has dropped because the refinery has been supplying the Nigerian markets, and Nigeria is really beginning to find the true north of the actual demand of PMS on a daily basis. Okay? On the issue of the marketers saying that the Dangote Refinery is not able to meet up with the demand for the markets in Nigeria and it wants to import PMS, that is just an excuse that they are giving to want to bring in substandard products into Nigeria. And this is a reason for us to also remind the government that based on sections 317, which is covered in the law, which was the basis on which in June, when there was escalation between the both parties, and just before PMS production started, Dangote Refinery had, instituted a legal suit in court to enforce the provisions of the PIA. But like I said earlier, that has been overtaken by events. So if, for example, the marketers are saying that they want to import PMS, then they need to comply with sections 317.11 that says that the specification for the PMS they bring in has to meet up with the AFRI 5 framework that was decided by the ECOWAS declaration of February 2020, which says that the PMS you bring in must meet up with 50 parts per million for sulfur and should be above 90% for octane.
Kevin,
that is the specification for
Kevin,
the AFRI 5 framework.
Kevin, speaking for myself, I'm not getting the drift of this conversation. And it is as follows. I would have felt more comfortable if, our guest this morning had been Tony Chejina himself, speaking for Dangote Refinery, who had already issued a statement, as I said in my opening remarks, which settled the matter clearly, and which should be the template, for what follows. You are not a spokesperson for Dangote Refinery. So let's talk about something else. Yesterday, there was a 1 million barrels per day, initiative launched by the, upstream and downstream midstream regulatory agency. They're saying in 1 year, Nigeria can produce, 1 million barrels per day additional to whatever we export. How feasible do you think that is? What are the challenges? Let's talk about industry issues. Let the Dangote people worry about their own problems. If Chejina wants to explain his statement, let him come here and explain. But let's talk about the industry, particularly in the context of that major event yesterday.
Dr. Bati, thank you very much. I understand your position, but it's also important for us to understand that this is an issue I'm passionate about, and it's actually in the interest of Nigeria that we comply with backward integration for petroleum derivatives that takes up about $28 billion worth of imports on a yearly basis. But over to the question you asked on the event that NUPRC held, which was their 3rd anniversary since the PIA was signed. Well, you know, the Exxon Seplat deal has passed 583 wells, you know, is expected to add anywhere between 180 and 220,000 barrels of crude oil on a daily basis. Very soon, you know, you should see Exxon in partnership with its joint venture partners, you know, commission FID on Airfield North for, you know, exploring more crude oil in deep water, anywhere between 1,000 and 1,200 meters. The task for the government is, in my opinion, to obey Section 65 of the Petroleum Industry Act. One major reason why a lot of operators, IOCs especially, multinational corporations that fall under the materiality threshold for production and output for crude oil on a daily basis are not investing in Nigeria, is because they don't trust the current system of unregistered joint ventures, where they have to put up carry, they have to put up the total capex. Nnpc is carried, and they have to, you know, take their capex and opex amortization over the shelf life of the assets through joint venture cash calls, which is one of the reasons why you have Nigeria as the highest unit production cost per barrel at about $48 per barrel. It's one of the highest in the world. In countries in North Africa, in the Middle East, where they are fighting civil war, in Iraq, in Libya, unit production cost per barrel is under $10. So Nigeria has no excuse for having the highest unit production cost per barrel. You know, so you need to migrate from unregistered joint ventures to incorporated joint venture company model, where the both joint venture partners share FID upfront, and one party is not carrying the other party. That has been a major drawback, because under Buhari, the IOCs were being owed over $5 billion in joint venture cash calls, which took quite a number of years for them to be paid. You know, so that, for me, that's a challenge of Mr. President, who happens to be the substantive Minister of Petroleum, which I don't think should be, because the president should focus on his job as a president and appoint a substantive Minister of Petroleum to fast track the pace of things in that sector.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Kelvin, for your time with us. I believe we've been able to clarify some of the issues that you came here to talk about this morning, even though some people might be of the opinion that we do need, if we're going to speak on behalf of Dangote, it must be an official spokesperson. But your thoughts definitely well stated.
Thank you for having stayed to the end of this video. You made me really happy. One more thing, click on the notification bell so anytime I do a video, you will be the first to be notified. See you on the next one.